Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Carlos, and thank you for tuning in to On the Needle. If you've been following for the past several weeks, then you may have thought that I forgot about you on this past Friday, but I did not. I purposely waited until today to review the collection or the album in my collection that I'm talking about today, and that is Earth, Wind, and Fire's Best of Volume 1. So if you watch Versus, I mentioned this before on the D'Angelo review, the latest Versus battle was between Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Ozzy Brothers. Two really iconic soul groups, in my opinion, two iconic pop groups, because they really have some huge songs that have transcended R&B. Now, the Ozzy Brothers, I would say, as a catalog goes, probably has more decade spanning hits. What I mean by that is in the last maybe 10 to 20 years, they've had some pretty big hits versus maybe Earth, Wind, and Fire has had more remakes and things like that and reviving of their previous hits with songs like Contagious for the Ozzy Brothers. The song they did on the Versus last night, Busted, I really didn't feel like that one was as big of a hit to include in Versus, but hey, that's just me. No cut to Ozzy Brothers. I love them. I think they have a wonderful collection. And honestly, of the two groups, I think that the Ozzy Brothers catalog spans longer, as I alluded to earlier, is that they have more hits, I would say, for every decade since they first come out. But I am more partial, I must admit, to Earth, Wind, and Fire. So this is it, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Volume 1. Even though this cover is a bit toned down compared to some of their other album covers, you can see the artwork here a little bit clearer, but I always thought they had great album artwork. I really love that when an artist takes time to present an album that is not only appealing to the ear, but also appealing to the eye with the whole packaging. So this album includes some of their best hits. And to me, whenever you hear of a greatest hits and it's volume 1, you know you're talking about a big time artist, because not too many artists these days have enough hits to even do one greatest hits, let alone a volume 1. But I would say pretty much every song that I love of Earth, Wind, and Fire is on this album, with the exception of Would You Mind. That song to me is probably the greatest, I would say, as far as like old school slow jams. It might even be my favorite R&B song. I don't know, but it's definitely up there. And I love the subtlety, if that's a word, subtleness, of how back in the day it was sexy and it was flirtatious, but it wasn't over the top. You kind of had to read between the lines. If you haven't heard the song, definitely check it out. But they're basically telling this woman all these things they want to do, and they're basically saying like, "Hey, would you mind if I do X, Y, Z?" And when you listen to the song, it's like, well, damn, of course, who wouldn't mind that, you know? So I'm sure they were getting women left and right. But anyway, back to the album. It doesn't include Would You Mind, but it does include some really big hits, and a lot of those hits they played on Versus last night. So songs like Got to Get You in My Life, Shining Star, Getaway, Can't Hide Love, Fantasy, That's the Way of the World, of course, Reasons, which is probably, or I was going to say arguably, but I mean, I'm sure the stats back it up too. It's one of their top 5 songs as far as hits go. Also, September. I always call that song September 21st, but but it's actually called September. That's probably one of my favorites from them. One song they did not do that I was a little surprised was Sing a Song. They didn't do that one on Versus. So again, it just speaks to how iconic this group is, because to do something like Versus and you're still leaving big hits on the table, that just speaks to your catalog and the type of music that you've done. Another song I like that's on here that is a hit, but it's not as big as some of those other hits like Reasons or Getaway, Fantasy, September, those types of songs, is Love Music. That, again, if you haven't heard it, just Google it. I mean, look it up on YouTube after you watch this video. It's great. But I really, really love Earth, Wind, and Fire. I feel like the artistry of that group, the musicianship, the lyrics, even when I think about growing up and you would see current day or people in my generation like these battle of the band shows, a lot of the old school R&B songs that the bands would play would be from Earth Wind and Fire. You heard, the songs like Getaway and September, and you heard even Reasons worked into some of the marching band music. So I think they're, I don't know, they're just such a iconic group to me. I really, really love this album. It's actually one of my favorites. Although every album that I review in here every week has a special place for me and is a favorite to some degree, but I would say this one is definitely in my top 10 of all of the albums that I own. It's really, really great. So curious to see what your thoughts are on the versus battle between Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Ozzy Brothers, and on Earth, Wind, and Fire in general. What do you think about their music? If you have this volume one, what are your thoughts on that? Or what other albums or CDs do you have of Earth, Wind, and Fire? Curious to see what else is in their collection that I may not have even heard before. So thanks for tuning in and thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. I will be releasing another video this Friday. And here is a hint. It is also another iconic boy band. That's all I'm going to say. Or male group, I would say. They wouldn't necessarily qualify as a boy band, but they are an iconic male group, and I'll be reviewing them this Friday. So make sure you tune in, and thanks again for watching.